Good morning and welcome to Daily Red Devil for all of your latest Manchester United transfer news and talk. I hope everyone is doing well on this Tuesday morning. We're back with another massive show to bring you guys today. But before we jump into that, do me a small favour, smash a like on the video. Let's try and see 200 likes on today's episode. Also, if you are new to the channel, please do subscribe. We are on the road to 21,300 subscribers. We're very, very close. We're only about 10 away. So please do subscribe if this is your first time watching. And let's get straight on into the video. So on the show this morning, we are going to be talking a little bit more about Marcus Rashford. I think this will probably be the final time we talk about Rashford in this context. So I'm quite glad to get this one out the way of. So we're talking about Rashford. We'll also be talking and reacting to a story that came out this morning saying that Ineos are apparently looking at potential replacements for Erik ten Hag. Also, lots of updates on transfer-related stuff, players coming in, players coming out. What business will we do in the final days of the window, if any? And we'll also talk a little bit about another stupid story, I think, saying that apparently United are still interested in Karim Benzema. We'll talk about that, but I don't think there's any truth in it personally. But as always, guys, I invite you to have your say on all things Manchester United in the comment section below. Let me know your thoughts, get involved in the show and have your say. So let's start the show off with the story about Marcus Rashford then, because I don't want to spend too much time on this. You know, most of the videos yesterday were focusing on Marcus Rashford. I said my piece on him, but there is some clarity. Okay, Marcus Rashford has apparently apologised to Erik ten Hag. He's apparently, He's accepted that he was wrong. He's taken accountability, and he's now available for selection, just like that. You know, he's gone into training. Sorry, he went into Carrington yesterday with his agent, who's his brother. He went in. He said, "I made a mistake." He apologised. He's back in the team. Simple as that. I don't know. I don't know what I think about this, to be honest. Like, I think he's done the right thing. I'll say that to begin with. You know, he's come into Carrington straight away. He's apologised. I assume he probably apologised to his teammates as well. We know that he's apologised to Erik ten Hag. We know that he's acknowledged that he was wrong and that his behaviour was, unacceptable, which is, what I've said on this show many, many times before. His behaviour was completely unacceptable. More and more stories are coming out about this time in Belfast, though, which is really interesting. There was a lady on the radio this morning who apparently was out with them in Belfast and was saying, they were drinking all day, like 12-hour long binge. He was passed out in the club at 3 a.m. on the Friday morning when he should have been in training at 6. The situation is bad, and I respect him for apologising. I respect him for acknowledging his mistakes. But it's the last chance for Marcus Rashford for me now. I'm not the type of person to hold a grudge. I think he's been a man, and he's come in and he's accepted that he was wrong. He's apologised. I assume he's apologised to the players as well. I imagine he'll probably post something out on Twitter at some point, addressing the fans, saying that he was, sorry or whatever. And it won't be forgotten. But obviously, I hope Marcus Rashford does well in the second half of the season. I hope that he helps us achieve our goals, whether that be 5th in the Premier League, maybe even, we try and get 4th. Unlikely, but stranger things have happened, and we try and win that FA Cup, and if that happens, I'll respect him, if he starts to put in good performances, he starts to work hard on the pitch, because the thing you have to remember here, guys, is this is not an isolated incident. His attitude has stunk for the whole season. Remember at Newcastle, he was refusing to track back, and we got absolutely dominated in that game away from home at Newcastle. There's been multiple instances this season where he's just not put in the effort, the bare minimum. So it's not like it's a one-off, but specifically to do with this one situation, I respect that he's apologised. I respect that they've, sorted out the situation. Now, people will say, well, what about Ronaldo? What about Sancho? I mean, Sancho never apologised. Sancho refused to apologise. He called out the manager on social media. It's a different situation. Cristiano Ronaldo did apologise, didn't he? Remember when he walked off the pitch? Not walked off the pitch, sorry. He was on the bench, wasn't he? And he knew, and I think Erik ten Hag told him he wasn't going to bring him on, and then he left the stadium, which I think is, you can't do, but at the same time, I don't blame him. He's Cristiano Ronaldo. He's the greatest goal scorer of my generation, So I'm glad that it's been resolved. But the headline is he is back in training, and the official line from the club, so this is coming directly from the club, is that Marcus Rashford has taken full responsibility for his actions. This has been dealt with as an internal disciplinary matter, which is now closed. So the situation is over. There's nothing more to talk about. I will still say this though, okay? I hope nothing more than anything that Marcus Rashford has an incredible second half of the season. I hope that he's scoring goals for fun. I hope that he's getting assists. I hope that, we see the Rashford of last season. But for me personally, I still want him gone in the summer. I think now I've kind of come to realise that, you can't have a player who's only consistent when the pressure's on him. You can't have a player that plays for a contract and then disappears and does things like this outside of the, getting drunk on a day when he should be in training the next morning and all the rest of it. You can't have a player at Manchester United on 350 grand a week. I'm sorry, you just can't. We're not that club anymore. We aren't in a position where we can afford to pay mediocre players 350k a week. Like, we just can't do that. We know we can't. And that's not me saying that I don't want us to be able to do that. I would love for us to be able to do that, but we can't. We're in such a mess financially at the moment. And with financial fair play, like, I've said this to people many, many times before, where they're like, oh, if we got Qatar, we'd have Mbappe, we'd have Bellingham here, we'd have all of these players. We wouldn't. It doesn't work like that anymore. The rules are so strict, and we've seen that with Newcastle. We've seen that with other clubs where they spend a little bit too much money hoping that they're going to be a top four side. And then next thing you know, they're in absolute financial disaster, because even if you have the money to spend, because of these new rules in the Premier League, you just can't spend it. So yes, the Qatari situation would have been better because they'd have cleared the debt, which would have helped. But generally, like, the only way we get back from this situation now is if we remove the highest earners, okay? And it just so happens that the highest earner is Marcus Rashford. And let's be honest, right? If you were to sell him now, or in the summer, obviously, after a really good second half of the season, his stock price would be, probably 70 to 100 million. And that would go on your books as 100% profit, because he's come through the youth academy. He's cost us nothing. So for us, I think we do need to start moving on some of these youth players. Mason Greenwood's one. He would be 100% profit. Scott McTominay's another, 100% profit. Marcus Rashford would be 100% profit. So if you were to look at those three players alone, right? Obviously, there's loads of other people who need to leave as well. The Maguires, Anthony Martial's obviously going to go, a couple of others, Jadon Sancho. But we're specifically talking about homegrown players who've come through the youth academy. If we were to sell Rashford for, say, 70 million, Mason Greenwood for 50 and McTominay for 30, that would be 150 million of straight profit going straight back into the club, which could then be spent without any hesitation at all. And you'd be saving a crazy amount of wages as well, just off those three players alone. So I think, to be honest with you guys, like, I've made my mind up a little bit about Marcus Rashford now. I want him gone in the summer, So my stance remains the same. I want him gone in the summer. I don't want him at the club anymore. I don't want him here anymore. But obviously, for the second half of the season, we just have to hope and pray that he puts in some good performances, helps us achieve somewhat of a good second half of the season, whether that's 4th, 5th, 6th, whatever that might be, and hope that we go and win the FA Cup. Like, that's what we have to hope from Marcus Rashford. And that will only, benefit Manchester United in the long run, because obviously we want to be competing in the top competitions next year. I mean, even the Europa League, I'd rather be in the Europa League than nothing. But at the same time, if Marcus Rashford starts finding form again, that will just put his stock price back up again, which means when we go to sell him in the summer, we will actually be able to get a reasonable amount of money for him. So for me personally, I don't think Marcus Rashford can win me back now, because I just simply don't think he can. I think I've lost that respect for him. I've lost that trust for him. But obviously, for the second half of the season, we are, I don't want to say we're stuck with him, but we are ultimately, and we need to make the best of a bad situation. Now, there are question marks about why has he not been banned for a couple of matches? Why has he not been deducted pay? I don't know about any of that. That's obviously up to the club. That's up to Erik ten Hag to decide. Are they worried about Marcus Rashford's brand off the field? Are they worried about creating more noise, more questions in the media? Like, I just don't know. I have no idea what happened in that meeting. But the headline is, that he acknowledged his mistakes, he acknowledged his actions, which is kind of the bare minimum, isn't it? And he did it in, So let me know what you guys think about Marcus Rashford in the comment section. For me, my decision's already made. My decision's already made. I hope he has a great second half of the season. I hope he, helps us achieve something this year, and then I hope that he goes in the summer. That's my decision, and I don't think it will change now. To be honest with you, I really don't. There's not much he could do to win my trust back, and that's sad. It is, because I like Marcus Rashford. He was one of my favourite players. You know, he's come through the youth academy. He's a local lad. Like, it is sad to see this happening to a player who did have so much potential. And you do always have to look at these situations, you know, like what's going on behind the scenes. There was a story coming out this morning that that had come from someone close to Marcus Rashford. And it says, Manchester United coaching staff are concerned Marcus Rashford's lifestyle is having a negative impact on his form. Sources close to the player have told us that he is in complete self-destruct mode and fear his inner circle have too much power over him. And we know that for a fact. You know, the agents will be whispering in his ear saying, don't worry about Man United, you know, I'll get you a move to PSG in the summer. This is the guy who a year ago was on the brink of moving to PSG, you know, just because he wanted to get more money out of Manchester United. So when you talk about loyalty and all the rest of it, he's already played his hand before. And, you know, his brother, his agent, is whispering in his ear, telling him he's better than he is, telling him he's, you know, can do whatever he wants. You're bigger than the club. Your brand is worth more than, you know, they'll be telling him all of these things and putting him on this pedestal, which has brought him, to where he is. Magic Hotel says, obviously a good sob story, mental health issue, therefore no punishment. But yeah, he needs to go ASAP. I'm not sure I agree with you there, mate, to be honest. I'm never going to shy away from mental health things because I think it's a little bit... I think mental health is such an important thing, especially amongst men, you know? And I think these people are humans. They are. We know that he's had, I think, a family member or something died recently, or maybe even a few family members. We know that obviously he's separated with his fiancée, who he's been with since he was a teenager. We know that he's struggled with mental health for a long time before any of this. So, like, I'm not going to sit here and say mental health isn't a real thing or any of that, because I genuinely, I think that's rubbish when people say that mental health is, you know, a decision to decide whether you want to feel sad or not. Like, I get the principle. You can better yourself. You could go out, go exercise. You could eat healthy and all the rest of it. But I'm not one of those people who thinks mental health's a made up thing, because it is a real thing. And, you know, you do have to acknowledge that Marcus Rashford is probably going through something in his life, and that's why he's in this position. But regardless of that, okay, he hasn't shown us enough over the last 5, 6, 7 years, really, to 100% make me say he's unsellable, you know? Nick says, off-field distractions should not affect effort for 90 minutes on the pitch, just excuses for poor attitude. Yeah, and that's the thing, you know? Like, if his mental health's that bad, he shouldn't be in the squad. He should be away from the team. He should, you know, go and be getting counselling. He shouldn't be playing football, you know? If it's that bad that he's unable to track back because he's depressed, like... I don't believe in that. I think that's ridiculous, you know? He chooses not to track back. He chooses not to work hard. That's not because he's depressed. Like, that's just a step too far. And if we're genuinely being led to believe that Marcus Rashford doesn't put any work because he's depressed, like, that's stupid. I'm sorry. Magic Hotel says, I'm just explaining why there's no punishment. Yeah, I imagine that's probably what happened. You know, they probably went into the meeting and said that, you know, Marcus has had a lot going on. He's going through a lot outside of football. He's really struggling. And, you know, he wanted to let off some steam. One thing led to another, and next thing you know, he's passed out on the floor in a club in Belfast at 3 a.m. on the day when he's meant to be in training. Zaid says, Rashford earns enough money to be able to get help. Some of us struggle with mental health but don't have the financial backing to seek proper help. I hate that mental health goes around so easily. Yeah, I get it, mate, but money isn't everything. You know, if you look at some of the richest people in the world who've got billions and billions of pounds, like, a lot of those people aren't happy. And just to say, oh, because they've got money, they should be able to be all right. Like, life doesn't work like that. You know, people's brains aren't wired like that. You might have somebody who's literally homeless who could be really happy. And then you might have somebody who's sat on their super yacht with 10 supermodels and $1 billion in their bank, and they might be depressed. You know what I mean? Like, your brains aren't wired like that to simply just be like, I'm happy, I'm sad. And I get it generally, you know, that people are frustrated. He earns loads of money and all the rest of it. William says, how do you explain the lying part? Well, I mean, if you want to be really, really nitpick the situation, I mean, did he technically lie? He said he was too ill to train. I mean, if you're hungover, I would say that's ill, isn't it? You're being sick, you're throwing up, you feel terrible. So, like, I don't know. I get what you're saying, mate. Like, he did technically lie. He said that he was ill when really he was self-induced because he'd been drinking too much. But, like, I don't know. I'm not gonna pin down on that too much. I think it's a little bit too far to be like, over obsessing about that. But anyway, let's move on to something else, because I didn't want to talk about Marcus Rashford for too long, but I have spoke about him for 15 minutes. But obviously, if you want to have your say on Marcus Rashford, get in the comment section and let me know. And everybody who has just joined the video, please smash a like. Try and hit 200 on today's video. Let's try and do that. Okay, so the Marcus Rashford situation, hopefully we don't have to speak about that ever again. I've said my piece. I want him gone in the summer. And I hope that he has a good second half of the season. And that's it for me. Obviously, it's not going to change. Right, let's talk a little bit about Pellistri then. So it looks like Pellistri is on the brink of moving to Granada on loan. Apparently, he's going to fly to Spain today for his medical. Let me know what you guys think about that one. I think it's the right decision for Pellistri, to be honest, because Erik ten Hag has to make Antony work. Do I think Antony has a future at Manchester United? With Erik ten Hag here, yes. With Erik ten Hag not here, I think Antony will be pushed out. So I think Erik ten Hag is trying to prove to Ineos, to Sir Dave Brailsford, to Omar Barada, to whoever the new director of football is, that his transfers have worked. Obviously, to this point, they've been pretty terrible, let's be clear. We spoke about this on the show last night, and I think the only signing that we can 100% say with certainty has been a success is Lisandro Martinez. All of the others, I think, are questionable at this point. Obviously, Rasmus Højlund, I think, it kind of gets a free pass at the moment because he's only 20 years old and has only been here for 6 months. But all of the others, Mason Mount, we didn't need him. Casemiro, 70 million at the age of 30, 31. The list goes on and on and on. And I genuinely think that, Erik ten Hag is moving these other players out, the Pellistris, the Hannibals, etc., because he wants to focus on the players that he's brought in. He wants to show the Manchester United fans and the new management team that his transfer deals are good. Because at the moment, there's a lot of question marks over Erik ten Hag's transfer activity. Let's be clear. I think if I put up, let's do a poll. Why not? Let's do a quick poll and see. Let's do a quick poll. Give me 1 second, guys. Right. So the question's going to be simple. What's the question going to be? I want to try and make it as simple as possible. How do you rate Erik ten Hag's transfers so far? Transfers. I don't know how to write it. Do you rate Erik ten Hag's transfers so far? I mean, it's a simple question. I've probably confused it a little bit, but the point I'm trying to make here is I want you guys to let me know in the comment section, what do you think of Erik ten Hag's signings so far? The Mason Mounts, the Onanas, the Antonys, the Rasmus Højlunds, the Martinezes, etc. Let me know. Yeah. For me personally, I don't rate them at all. I think it's been poor. I think we've wasted money, but I want to give him the benefit of the doubt because he's been working with John Murtaugh and Richard Arnold, who are a bunch of muppets, let's be clear. And I think that when this new team is built with, Paul Mitchell, Dan Ashworth, Omar Barada, Sir Dave Brailsford, Jim Ratcliffe, Jean-Claude Blanc, etc. Once this whole new team is built, right, I don't want Erik ten Hag to have any say in the transfers anymore. I don't. I really, really don't. I'm sorry. Like he hasn't. I don't think he deserves it personally. I think as a coach, I think he's a good coach. But other than that, I don't really rate him, to be honest. I think he's a good coach, and I think that's all he should be. Now, people will say, "Oh, does that mean you want Erik ten Hag out?" No. Pep Guardiola's a good coach. He's not good at doing transfers. Jurgen Klopp's a good coach. He's not good at doing transfers. Like most managers these days are coaches. They coach the team, they pick the team, and that's kind of it. Like, it's a very, very unique situation that Manchester United are in at the moment, where they have a manager who has this power and authority over the transfers. And the only reason we're in this position is because over the last 10 years, we've had people like Ed Woodward, who are businessmen, buying the signings based on how many shirts they'll sell. There's been no philosophy. There's been no, plan. There's been no forward thinking. It's just been like, right, who can we buy in the summer who's going to sell us £10 million worth of shirts and get us a new sponsorship deal in South America? Oh, yeah, let's get Cavani. I'm sure we can get some new, sponsors from some companies over in South America or in these different territories that we haven't identified yet. Like, that's been our transfer policy to this point. And that's why when Erik ten Hag came in, they were more than happy to let him have the responsibility, because they probably thought, we do not know what we're doing. We're only focusing on shirt sellers. And as a United fan, I was really, really happy about Erik ten Hag having the responsibility. I was, because I thought it can't be any worse than what we've seen under Ed Woodward, John Murtough, Richard Arnold. Give him the responsibility. He's a football man. He's somebody who wants to bring the football back to Manchester United, but it backfired. It massively backfired, because what happened was all of the other clubs knew that Erik ten Hag was picking the players, and that he had an emotional attachment to these players. We know that he had an emotional attachment to Martinez, to Anthony, obviously to Mason Mount because of his time on loan in the Eredivisie, an emotional attachment to Onana. And all of these clubs then went and dealt with John Murtough and Richard Arnold, right? Who are absolutely hopeless at doing deals. They dealt with them knowing that Erik ten Hag had given the direct sign-off to buy these players. So he'd probably said to them, guys, go and get me Anthony at whatever cost. I need Anthony, And Ajax knew that. Ajax knew that United would be stupid enough to pay 100 million, because they knew that this demand for that player had come straight from the top, straight from the manager. And I think that left us vulnerable. We need to be going into the market, right? We need to be going in and saying, if you don't want to sell us this player, we've got another 10 players lined up that we can buy instead. Whereas Manchester United just asked Erik ten Hag who he wanted. He told them he wanted Anthony, and that was it. They spent the whole summer buying Anthony, and then they ended up spending 100 million on him when Ajax only wanted, I think, 30 or 40 at the beginning of June, July. And that was just the situation all over and over again. Big G says, they have all been rubbish. None of them are United quality. I don't think you can say that about Lisandro Martinez, mate. You really think Lisandro Martinez is garbage? I don't agree with you there at all. I think Lisandro Martinez has been a breath of fresh air since he's been at this club. I think he fills me with joy when he plays. He makes me, he shows passion. He's strong. He's aggressive. He's quick. He's good on the ball. He can put balls over the top behind to the strikers. I think to call Lisandro Martinez garbage is a little bit harsh, and I think even to call Rasmus Højlund garbage is a bit harsh as well. But yeah, if that's your opinion, that's fine. But I personally think it's a bit unfair to call him garbage. Right, yeah. So there's a bit more news on Pellistri quickly. Apparently, Pellistri has just arrived in Spain, and the deal will be done today. So Pellistri is going to go. There's more stories coming out this morning saying that apparently Manchester United and Chelsea are trying to test the waters. So, attempting to sign Karim Benzema still. That's never going to happen. Maybe he'll go to Chelsea. I think that's, believable. But Karim Benzema to United, that's never going to happen. Newman says, Kieran, would it be fair for us fans to punish Rashford ourselves by booing him every time he plays or touches the ball? No, I don't think that will get us anywhere, mate. He's made a mistake. He's apologised. We have to back him for the second half of the season, purely because if he's playing well, if he's getting goals, it will put his stock price up, and then we can hope to get more money from him in the summer. Fred says, United present position reflects Erik ten Hag's transfers, just not up to scratch, barring Martinez. Yeah, I would agree with you, mate. I would. I really, really would. Right, I'm going to wrap the video up here, guys. I will be back at 6 p.m. today. 6 p.m. as always. Have a good day, everybody. Don't forget to give the video a like before you go, and subscribe if you're new. And I'll speak to you all at about 6 p.m.